Hello, everybody. Welcome to the IC Topic Chats. Today is Thursday, September 8th. We are in, I think, like the 105th IC Topic Chat. Can you believe it? We've got Heidi and Jenna here today. They're going to be talking about business coaching, what it is, and why you might want to try it. I know this has been a regular conversation piece for a lot of us over the years. Should we have a business coach? Who knows enough about program evaluation? I know that several people on this call, and you'll probably hear from them throughout, have had business coaches. I've heard very little about people saying they hated it. I do not personally have a business coach, although I think I probably ought to have one. So I'm very interested in what you have to say here, generally about IC Topic Chats. Every week on Thursday at noon Eastern, or my time zone, it's 11 a.m. Central. We do meet, except for when we're the AEA conference. We won't meet then. We won't meet on the U.S. Thanksgiving Day. We don't meet around the holidays, which for many people is Christmas. And then there's usually one day in the middle of the summer where I'm just like, I need a break, guys. That's about it. But aside from that, we probably meet a good 48 to 50 times every year. So please join us, and I will post in the chat our links for all the sessions that are going on. And coming up next week is a core topic on hiring and subcontracting. So with that, I will be quiet. I'll pass it over to our co-hosts, Heidi and Jenna. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Hi, all. Happy to be here. Jenna and I are going to spend a little bit of time and just talk about our personal and professional experiences with business coaching, what it is, why you might want to try it. And then we're going to do a little bit of a breakout session with some Jamboards so you can get into smaller groups and talk about coaching amongst yourselves. And then we'll do a report back at the end of the session. So I'm just going to dive right in, and really informal. So if people have questions, feel free to jump in. I'll try to monitor the chat when I'm not the one presenting, and vice versa. So feel free to jump in. So let me advance my slides. Why are they not advancing? There we go. So we're just going to introduce ourselves. Jenna is here with me from Informed Change, which is she does some great work, and I'll just let her talk a little bit about her organization.
Awesome. Thanks, Heidi. This is kind of fun. And by the way, we're not total experts because both of us have only done business coaching for like, I don't know, a year-ish or so. So I bet there will be lots of wisdom in this room too, but at least we can get the conversation going with the experiences that we've had. So I started Informed Change about a year and a half ago now. And so I focus mostly on youth serving organizations, although I have done a fair amount of work sort of outside that now, kind of in the public health space, or peripherally related to youth stuff, but mostly focused on research, evaluation. We facilitate, we do some, creation of content. Like we're doing a workshop in about a month for all the CEOs of Campfire on belonging, because there's a ton of them that are new, and so they want to kind of take that back to their respective councils and Campfire in their respective states and start sort of building their teams again post-pandemic. So we do some things like that. An anti-racist, compassionate, and equity focused lens really shapes how we think about the work at Informed Change. I say we all the time. I am a single LLC person, but I subcontract on virtually almost every project that I do. And so it feels more we to say that. And then we really prioritize having a lot of different perspectives when we do mostly qualitative research. We do some surveys and some mixed methods work too. But it's really important for us to make sure that we have many voices at the table when we're doing our research and evaluation. Oh, and Heidi, I think you skipped a few slides ahead. Oh, there you're back.
I know you would think I was savvy with technology, but thank you, Jenna. Let me try to get back to our previous, nope, here we go. Okay, hold on. Hold, please. Well, I will talk a little bit about my business, which is was going to be next on the slide. So my business is Heidi Bear 2 Consulting, and I started a little over a year ago as well. And I Are we back? Okay. And I do help health focused nonprofits and health departments make sense of their data. So my background and training is in public health and community health. And I have a kind of a focus on reproductive health. Very similar values to Jenna. I really appreciate her kind of leadership in this area as well, but centered around anti-racist and equity-driven approaches, collaborative and participatory, really trying to engage the community. And for me, when I'm doing that work, that's often really involving the community in the data collection, giving data back to the community, really just, having more of a collaborative approach there and engaging them, making the data as transparent and understandable as possible to a variety of audiences. There's so many examples of data being removed from communities and never given back. So I think that's something I'm really trying to do in my small little circle of where I'm working. I do evaluation, needs assessments, facilitation, and reporting. And needs assessments is becoming kind of a new niche for me, and I'm really excited about it. So I've been able to work with some county public health departments, which is really exciting. But Jenna, I just wanted to make sure you had enough time to talk about what you were talking about before I advanced all the slides.
You're okay, but we're kind of seeing like a small window of your computer, but not like the full slide. It's sort of like we're seeing your background computer screen, and then it's sort of small in the middle.
Okay, I will keep trying to figure this out. I don't know why. Okay.
I can try to share too. Do you want me to?
Yeah,
do
you
it
want
right now?
to? Let me see.
Yeah, let me just here. You guys tell me if you see that. Okay, cool.
Yes, great, thank you. And I see your full screen. Cool, so that's a little bit about us. Now we're gonna jump in, talk a little bit about business coaching and what it is. So like Jenna said, we're both kind of new to our own businesses, and we've both been in coaching for about a year, but for me, it was something I was exposed to pretty early on when I started my business. And I think it's been really helpful. So business coaching can be group or individual support and guidance from an experienced business person. So you can have a one-on-one coach or you can have kind of a group coach setting. And we've both experienced both of those. Business coaching provides lessons, tools, and support. It just really helps you succeed in areas where you're trying to grow. And for me, it's been really helpful to understand different pillars of business. You have marketing, you have your finances, there's client generation and finding those clients, learning how to build a pipeline. And I think, and there's definitely other pillars of business for sure, but for me and for us, I think it's been really helpful to understand what each of these pillars means and how to implement them in your business, and when to spend what time on which pillar and how much time to spend on each pillar, and when to prioritize those different pillars. So that has been really helpful for both of us.
And since I don't have my notes, Heidi, you'll just have to, clue me in when you want me to chat about something.
Yeah. Next, let's talk about our group coaching experience.
Cool. Okay, so there we go. Okay. So we're both in several, I'm sure many of you probably through AEA have met Tamara Hamai. She's run a group for several years now called the Changemakers Legion, which is kind of a cohort group coaching experience. And so that's where Heidi and I met for the first time. So we're going to talk a little bit about that together. And then we've both done a little bit of individual coaching. So we'll kind of talk about the group piece first, and then we'll talk about both of our separate individual coaches that are outside of this that we've done. But here are just some of the pieces about what we've experienced in group coaching. One of the things is you do connect with other business owners who are in totally different stages. So of course, when I started, I think I'd started Informed Change maybe a month or 2 months before I joined this group coaching. And I didn't even really know what I didn't know at first, but it was really fun because it was very welcoming. And so I just learned. And, the group made it pretty clear. They're like, don't worry, this will not be the only time we ever talk about, for instance, contracts, or the only time we ever talk about insurance. Many of the same kinds of topics that we talk about here in the IC TIG chat, come up in group coaching, because it's the kind of stuff that you run into all the time in consulting. So I learned early on that if I didn't feel like I got everything about how to create a contract the first time around, it would come up again. And so it's kind of cyclical in that way. We do a twice monthly 1 hour meeting, kind of called the hot seat meeting. So people come with kind of a current dilemma that they're facing in their consulting business, from very, very small things to kind of larger big picture stuff. We talk through them. There is the 90-day planning piece. And so this is a real thing. And some of you may have done this before. There's kind of the 90-day planning system. And so this is sort of an adapted version that we've done in Changemakers. But essentially, once a quarter, you come together as a group for about I think it's about a 3-hour session. It's pretty significant. And you focus on one aspect of your business, and you kind of work it from the abstract to the very concrete. You talk about, like, what is your goal with this? Are you going to accomplish this? And then by the end of the 90-day planning session, you're actually kind of calendaring out your next steps to work on it. And so you kind of choose something different each quarter. And sometimes it's similar. Like if marketing is really the thing you need to work on, you might do that a couple quarters in a row. But it does really help you focus in on one aspect of your business that you might not normally get to do. We have co-working sessions, which just means they're optional, but you can show up. You talk a little bit about, like, sort of the goal you have for the next 2 hours, and then you meet up at the end. It's just kind of a little accountability option in the group. There's an online forum where people can post anytime and ask questions. So there's a bunch of different topics. So the conversation goes in between the sessions, which is kind of nice. Somebody might bring something up and we didn't have enough time to talk about it, and it kind of goes to the online forum. And then finally, there is a weekly accountability check-in. So you just kind of write a little bit about what happened last week, what happened this week, and what are your goals for the next week. And it's a way for us to just sort of cheer each other on about the stuff that we're working on. Sometimes people, send out that they got an RFP, or that they lost an RFP, or whatever it is. But it's a space to kind of cheer each other on between our sessions. Heidi, do you want to add anything about your experience with any of these aspects of the group coaching?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So the twice monthly coaching hot seat, I really didn't know what to expect, because you don't entirely know who's going to show up from the group. So there's maybe 3 of you, or sometimes there's 8 of you. And I just wasn't sure if it was going to just feel chaotic and I wasn't going to learn anything. And I will say, this is where I feel like I learned the most. Even if I don't come to the meeting with a particular issue that I want to discuss, everyone else usually has something, even if it's small. Like, I'm trying to figure out this particular line in my contract about intellectual property or something. I have found it to be so valuable to just hear from other people what they're grappling with, what their questions are. We've shared contract language with each other, which has been super helpful. Or just, someone's trying to think about hiring their first subcontractor. What does that look like? And like Jenna said, it's a lot of the topics that we cover in this group, but it's been really nice to have those conversations in a smaller group with people that you meet with a little bit more regularly, and a little bit more about their businesses and details. So that piece has actually been really fun and a surprise to me that I just didn't expect, which is great.
Awesome. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about our individual experiences. Heidi has had a little more in-depth individual coaching experience, but I thought I'd bring mine up because even though I only met a couple times with an individual business coach, the couple insights I got from it were actually really, really valuable. And so it made me realize that sometimes even meeting with an individual coach a few times, because they are so focusing on just you, your business, your personality, your work style, that you can get kind of a lot out of it. And it's just different than the group coaching experience. So I found a coach through someone that I've done some work with who really kind of focused on Strengths Finder. I don't know if a lot of you have done the Strengths Finder. You've probably done like some sort of related thing like the DISC profile, or it's essentially, you know, like a personality work style test, right? And you take it and then it kind of tells you what your main strengths are. There's, if you do the full one, there's 36. And so and I also did this thing called the BP10, which is like this business profile thing, but we didn't dig into that as much as the Strengths Finder. I think it's a little bit newer tool. But anyway, I did the test, you know, stuff came up. It was like my top strengths didn't surprise me too much. It was, you like to build relationships and network and strategize and, you know, things that seem to make sense of wanting to be a consultant. And so after I'd taken that test, I met with a business coach and we talked through those things. But then we kind of talked about the other end of the 36. And my lowest one was, oh my gosh, and now I'm forgetting that. I told Heidi this too. It's consistency. That's what it is, consistency. And it really surprised me. And I was actually kind of like sad. And I told her, I said, you know, I get my work done on time. I mean, I always meet clients with great work. I don't miss me. I feel super responsible. She's like, no, it's not about you being responsible or you getting things done on time. It's that you don't like to do the same thing the same way every day. And I said, that is true. I hate the idea of having to do the same thing every day. You know, I am not the person who gets up at 8 o'clock, that takes 3 vitamins, that goes on a 20-minute walk, and then, I mean, I start my day differently every single day, even different times, different, I mean, and I have 2 teenage kids too, so that kind of, you know, throw those in the mix too. But she said, no, it's not a bad thing. It's just that you need to work with it. And if it's not something that you have a ton of energy for, to do the same thing at the same time all the time, that might be an area for you to start outsourcing or delegating and thinking about it. And so one piece we figured out for sure was that although I love networking and meeting people and connecting, the idea of marketing and kind of consistently putting things out on LinkedIn has been daunting to me. It just has not been where my energy is. And she's like, why don't you just work with someone who likes doing communications to, you know, work together to put out content that you want to put out, you know? I don't know. It, like, maybe I should have just come to that conclusion on my own, but that alone was worth the individual coaching, because then I did talk with somebody and we're starting to work on a communications plan and, you know, like our stuff on LinkedIn. So, because there'll be content probably now that someone else is going to help put it out there. But that was just really helpful to me. So even a couple sessions with this individual coach, I found valuable. So I'll let you talk about yours, Heidi.
I love that yeah, thank you. I love that consistency one, because I was like, oh, I think that's me too. So that was a good realization through your coach. So thank you. So I also decided to work with an individual coach this year. There's a woman named Dr. Charlotte Hughes Huntley. She's got a great LinkedIn presence and a podcast, and she focuses on public health independent consulting specifically. And I stumbled upon her podcast because she interviewed a local Indigenous evaluator here in Seattle that I really like and admire. And then she did a whole series where she interviewed all the directors of the tribal epidemiology centers across the nation. So I was really excited about her. And so she actually had some slots open up and I was able to work with her for about a quarter. So I worked with her April, May, June of this year. And it was really interesting. It was very tailored to my interests and needs in the moment. So different from the group coaching. I had to be a little bit more, I had to do my homework a little bit more, to be honest. So I had to kind of come a little bit more prepared to each session. Instead of with the group coaching, you can kind of show up and others will bring content and you don't necessarily have to always have something to talk about. But for her, I really wanted to be prepared. So that was great. It kind of focused me a little bit more. She was great about tailoring things to my needs and interests. She was really did some thoughtful reflection between sessions. We had some great, just like common interests and synergies. She connected me directly with some people in the field of public health, which, as we all know in this business, you know, those contacts are great. and important and helpful. And so that was really wonderful. And then she kind of helped encourage me in some marketing directions that I was feeling a little bit nervous about, and trying to just help me focus there and figure out, where to spend my time and energy. So I thought it was really valuable, a little bit more time consuming in a different way, but also a more directly focused way, which was great. And then it's just really fun to watch her also build her business in this whole process as well. So that was my experience.
Okay, I think I'm talking about marketing. Yes.
Yeah, you're marketing.
My systems too. I can't remember.
No, I'll do systems.
Okay, perfect. So 3 things we've learned through our coaching experiences. One is about marketing, and maybe this isn't a surprise to everybody, but I felt a little bit daunted by it, even though I like networking. But really, the idea is that you always have to be doing it, even if you're busy with client work. In fact, you should almost be thinking about it more when you're busy with client work, because you can get so busy that you sort of forget about the future, and these projects will end. And you do need to start putting those feelers out and thinking about what's going to be next. And I still struggle with it a little bit. The busier I get, the more I notice that I'm kind of pulling away from that. I know some other consultants in our coaching group that are just, again, like they probably have consistency at the top of their strengths finder because they do it all the time, but they get out there like 3 times a week and reach out and talk to at least 4 people or something. So I'm always amazed at the consultants that can do that, and they get a lot of work. So it is impressive. But yes, that is something I've learned. Continue to network, continue to market, even when you're busy.
Yeah, and I will say, adding on to that, I think that's where the next one, systems, is really good, because I'm personally struggling with number 1 right now. I'm not doing my marketing as well because I am getting busier with things. And so that's where our group coaching, I'm sort of, I've been telling our group, like, this is a problem for me right now. But one of the things that's really been helpful is learning how to set up those systems. So when you do get busy, some things are sort of automated and can just flow, or kind of exactly what you need to do to plug them in. So for me early on, that was like figuring out a really good financial system. I use Wave. It's free. Other people have recommended Wave, but people can do QuickBooks. It just depends on how big your business is. Finding other systems I'm setting up a system right now to help me just get better about getting like really nice looking proposals out the door to clients. So that's a system I want to just get dialed so then I can just get those out faster. Outsourcing what you don't enjoy, like Jenna shared earlier that she learned from her coach, she's actually doesn't want to do the same thing every day. And she's got a great colleague who is like more than happy to do some of these things. And so finding those people or finding ways to do some of that when you can is great. And then learning how to automate when you can. And I'm seeing this now, as things are getting busier, having set up some things early on and gotten consistent about a couple things. It's helping me sort of keep those things rolling as I go. And for me, my business, it's just me. I subcontract with folks and to folks, but I don't have any employees. So in some ways that's good. It's really small and nimble, but in other ways it's all on me as well. And so just figuring out what are those ways that I can make it easier? What are the systems that are already out there that work? And so that I think has been a great learning tool from the business coaching that I've had. And then I think the third one that we both talked about is just perspective. So especially, I think both coaching, but I think especially in group coaching, just having a space to step back and reflect on what are your business goals? What's working? What isn't? Do you even realize it's not working? I mean, that's actually been really interesting. In some conversations, I didn't realize something wasn't really working until I was talking through it with the group and realized I needed to adjust some things or, something like that. So I think that just having space for that. And And then I think in both coaching experiences, the feedback in real time on questions, issues, it's so helpful to either have a forum or someone you can email directly, or when you have your meetings, bringing those questions right away and trying to talk through, how you're going to solve this problem is just been so helpful. And, Jenna and I met through our group coaching experience, and now we're excuse me, we're friends and we're colleagues, and we can be this resource for each other as well offline. And that's been super valuable.
I agree. So 3 benefits. I mean, of course, there's many more, but these are kind of 3 that came up in our minds. It really did help me to think about, sometimes, I mean, I don't know about a lot of you, but I started out, as an applied researcher. I was at a university, then I was at a nonprofit for a long time. I did not have to think about revenue or contracts or anything. I just did the work. Like, I'm a research scientist. I care about researching these questions, figuring out great designs, executing that. Like, that was my sole focus. And I mean, other than thinking like, oh, our organization's going to go under, I didn't have to think about any of that stuff. And so you do have to think about that as a consultant. I mean, you are a business person, and I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it. But I will say, being part of that group coaching and making revenue goals as part of it, I mean, it did help me double my business in 1 year. I mean, I really probably will go from like December of last year to this year, just about kind of doubling my contracts in revenue. And I highly doubt that I would have gotten there without the support of the coaching and sort of having all those goals. And I think it also helps you sort of think about, what are the different revenue streams that you want? Do you want to only be subcontracted? Do you only want to work directly with organizations? Do you need to start subcontracting other people to get the kinds of projects that you want to get? Do you need bigger projects? Well, or do you want bigger projects? Then you only have so much capacity by yourself. So I think it does help you start to balance, like, what's the revenue I want as an organization, and what are the revenue streams that I want to bring in? And there's other people in our coaching that, also do tangible things, like they sell books, or they sell, webinar things online, or classes or courses that they teach. So there's kind of a wide range of how people bring in revenue, but that's been helpful to me.
Yeah, I think that's been great. And I think understanding all those different options and how to like right size revenue goals was super helpful for me too. The synergies have been great. And actually, this was one that Jenna really brought up, but connecting with others who can refer work to you and vice versa. We've already mentioned that Jenna and I met through our coaching group. Sharing with those who want their business to thrive. I mean, you're all there with a common purpose. You're trying to maybe not necessarily scale and grow really big, but you want a thriving business that's bringing in a consistent amount of revenue, or that's really matching your values. And so I think having a space for that, where others are really excited to support you in what you're doing and vice versa, is great. And then a generative space. It's not a shaming space. You don't have to feel ashamed when you come and say, oops, I totally messed up my tax calculations for this quarter, or whatever it is. We all have something that we feel like, oh, I should have known that, or, oh my gosh, I didn't have that in my contract language, or whatever it is, especially those of us at the beginning. It's been really nice to have a space where you can say, so this thing happened, and you can have a group that says, oh, I did that 5 times before I learned my lesson, or here's a solution for you to, not have that happen again. So I think that's been great. And I think on that note too, there's often a sense, I think it's very much just a part of certain part of our culture in this country, but where the idea is just to grow, get big. And a lot of us don't necessarily want to do that. I think there's a mix. And so being really clear about that, what are your business goals? And that was kind of the next one, is like, how to set those goals. What does that mean? Does it mean just exponential growth? Because that's not what everyone wants to do. And I think also having a safe space to say that, like, actually, I want to work this much every week, or this is my revenue and that's it. And I'm just hoping to hit that every year, and maybe like with inflation or something like that. And so being able to talk about that, I think is really helpful too. Learning how to set and achieve business goals was kind of a new one for me. So um, our group coaching does a good, better, best. So you kind of set 3 goals for whatever you're trying to achieve. And then hopefully you fall somewhere in that range. Ideally you hit your best, but it's kind of nice to have a range. And then like I was just talking about a little bit too, setting goals that match your values. Sometimes that might mean saying no to a client because they don't align with what you're trying to build for your business, and talking through that with a group is sort of helpful because it might feel like you're really turning away something that could build revenue, but it doesn't match your values, and kind of having a sounding board for that, or setting goals that match your lifestyle, your family needs, whatever your business needs are. And I think being able to talk about all the spaces, talk about that in a space that's safe is really important. And like Jenna mentioned, some people in our group coaching group are really trying to scale. They're trying to get really big. They're hiring staff. They're turning into like a bigger company. And then some of us are in a different place. So I think just being really open and talking about that and setting your goals based on that is really great and helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So going right off of that, what you were just saying, Heidi, 3 things to consider when hiring a coach, when going to coach, if you decide to do that. And of course, we're saying, you may want to think about the group versus individual too here, but yeah, in terms of how do you want to scale your business, like how much do you want to grow there? I mean, there are business coaches. It is a whole industry, right? There's a whole industry for business coaches, and it can get very high end, and we'll talk about that in the afford piece at the end. But some coaches, that is their only focus, is to help you grow. And if that's not your focus, then that's probably not going to be a good fit. I think we like our group coaching a little bit because the whole idea is everybody, the support is there for everyone to grow as big as they want to. And even if that's just to stay one person and work 20 hours a week, that's great. But how can you build the best business that, is possible at 20 hours a week for yourself, if that's what you want? So you sort of decide what your goal is and then you get to it. But there are other coaches that would push you really far. But if that's what you need, then that's going to be a really good fit, I think. So thinking about your goals first before you maybe suss out, what coaches are out there, I think is very important.
Yeah. And then the other thing that to consider is just how you learn best. So maybe a group coaching environment is too distracting for you, and maybe you really would benefit from one-on-one attention so you can just super focus on what you need to get done in this period of time. Or maybe you like the collaboration and the camaraderie, and it's, there's no judgment here at all. I think it's whatever works for you and how you learn best. I think that really will influence what type of coaching situation you want to do. Sometimes with group coaching, it'd be interesting to ask. I know we've had this with our group coaching. You could, join the hot seat session as a guest and just see if you like it. And you could ask if that's something that you could do, so that you can get a sense for who else is there and what other folks are doing, and if it would be a good fit for you. But I think either way works, and potentially both at the same time, as Jen and I have also done. I think that's really important to think about. And then what can you afford? So there is a whole range here. There are coaches that charge by the hour. There are quarterly coaching fees. There are yearly coaching fees. So I think just figuring out what works in your business budget. And then if that's something that's interesting to you, now I'm going to really make this part of building this into my annual business expenses. And I'll be honest, when I first started and joined group coaching right away, it wasn't an expense I was planning on, but I'm really happy that I did it. So, but now as I'm growing, does that mean my coaching budget grows? I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure out the answer, quite frankly. So I'd love to hear feedback from others. But I think building that in and really thinking about that as one of your business expenses is really helpful too.
Yeah, absolutely.